So, you want to be a contractor. Ever wonder what it takes to become a contractor? The journey they go on to get where they are now, or the crazy things they see and hear on the job site? Well, you're in the right spot. Welcome to So You Want to Be a Contractor, the podcast. Join your host, Mike Fisher, as he talks to owners of construction companies from all over about how they got started, how they run their business, and some of the craziest stories they've experienced on their job sites. And now, your host, Mike Fisher.
Welcome to So You Want to Be a Contractor. This is episode number 42. My name is Mike Fisher. I almost screwed up my own name because I was thinking about pronouncing.
Then don't say my name.
Right. No, I was thinking about pronouncing your name. That's why I screwed up my own name. My co-host over there.
I will
Maricela
do the honors
Archiga.
on
How
this round,
doing,
Mike Fisher. This is
today?
Maricela Archiga with New Generation Home. It is my pleasure to be here with everyone. Mike, I don't know how many episodes we are in together. I mean, you don't keep track when you're having fun, right? Just having a lot of fun over here on the pod.
Yeah, it's been amazing, and I appreciate you sticking around this long. Hopefully, to many, many more. So our guest today, up in the Central California area, Corky Silva, president at Tech City Builder. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, thank you.
I appreciate
Corky.
it. Thank you. Thanks for taking the time with us.
Tell us where you are exactly. Where are you in the
San
world?
Jose, California. So we are.
You're in San Jose?
Yeah, we are based out of San Jose, California. This is where my entire career has been here in this area.
Are you born and raised?
I'm born in San Francisco. And so born in San Francisco, raised in Pacifica, California, which is a small little beach town right outside San Francisco. And then I moved to San Jose in 2002, I think. I was going to San Jose State and civil engineering, construction management program. And so I ended up moving here and I just never left. It's a wonderful place.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Tell us what you do.
Yeah, give us a little insight on what you do. I'm curious, the name Tech City Builder, is that in reference to strictly where you guys are at now in San Jose, or does that have anything to do with the work you guys actually do?
No, I mean, it's really, it's really where we're based. We're really in the Silicon Valley, the tech city. Everything here is tech. We don't focus on tech. Let me say that. I mean, we do look at commercial work, but we do primarily commercial residential construction. I come from a background of large construction projects. So when I was an employee, I worked for 3 different companies, and I built kind of a broad spectrum of work, high rises, residential high rises. I built an open market, the San Pedro Square Market. I built senior living. I built hospitality. And I spent about 15 years in corporate construction. My last project, I was the executive in charge of Hillsdale Mall, $200+ million mall renovation. It's a whole block. They call it the North Block renovation. And that was my last, what I'd say, employee type, project. And then I always knew I was going to work for myself. I always knew I would have my own company.
How did you know that?
I've known that since I was born. I come from a entrepreneurial spirit of a family. My grandparents had Silva's Auto Supply in Pacifica when I was a kid growing up. So they were their own business owners. My family all worked there. And so even when I was going to San Jose State, I was kind of one of those bad students. I put a little bit more time in the fun of life and enjoying life instead of my GPA.
It's easy to do when you were going to San Jose State. NorCal folks had a real big reputation.
Oh yeah. San Jose State's a very fun school to go to. It's a great program. I mean, their civil engineering program is nationally ranked, and so. But I knew since I was in college, I would tell people, like, someday I'm going to own my own company. I'm going to run my own world. And
Did you know it was going to be in
I was going to say,
construction?
yeah, that was going to be my question. Did you always know it was going to be construction?
It's funny. When I graduated high school, I went to the military. I spent a couple of years in the military. I came back. When I was in high school, I used to do a lot of welding. And so, and a lot of, like that's back when high schools had, wood shops and metal shops, right? And so I was in every shop class, and I loved building with my hands. I just always have. And I came back and I went and I did welding technology at College San Mateo. They had a really high-ranked program, and I did that for a couple of years. And then at the time, I decided I'm going to go back to school. And I was all about computers. I was building computers. I was doing things. So I actually was going to do computer science until I took a computer science class. And then I was like, I'm not doing this. Like, I don't know what this is, right? And so I transferred to San Jose State. And when I did the tour, I was walking through the tour, and they were walking us through the civil engineering program. And they had this poster. And it was like, it was a high rise, and it was deconstructed high rise. So like the top was built, but as you came down, it showed more and more of the, the frame, the foundation, and it was, like a deconstructed high rise. And this gentleman walked up and I said, how do I do this? Like it said, like a military poster. It said, you can do this. And I said, well, how do I do this? And I turned to this guy and I was like, how do you do this? And he just happened to be the dean of civil engineering. And he was like, come in here and sign this. Happened to be, right? Such a weird experience. And so he was like, come in this room and sign this change of major. And I did. And they accepted me in the civil program. And it was like the best decision I ever made. I ended up being like president of the program, and just had the best experience ever. I actually went back to San Jose State after and got my master's. And, but once I started there, I knew it was construction, because civil engineering has so many different emphasis, like structural or soils or environmental. And, all of those are for the really smart people, the bookworms. And, I think I was more like, I was like, how can I make money by talking to people? And they were like, construction. I was like, okay. And then also my background as a builder, and just, everything, all my history. And so it just clicked, it was like, this is what I was made to do. And that's when I started. I was like, you know what, I'm going to own my own company. Like, I'm going to own my own company.
So Corky, you graduate construction, engineering management, civil engineering. You go work for 15 years for corporate, right? Doing some pretty big commercial projects.
Yes.
Tell me put me in the year that you start your own company, and how did you make that decision? Because it's a really hard decision when you are having the benefits, having all the cushions that come with corporate. Comes with a lot of other things too, but take me to that season.
So it kind of happened a little earlier. It started in 2017. I was finishing up. I was working for a company by the name of Johnstone Moyer in the Bay Area, and I was building a hotel in San Jose and a high rise in San Francisco. And I was the executive in charge of both. So basically, as the executive, you're overseeing the teams, and you're handling all the high level business stuff, right? And I was just done. I was just done with the business.
Why?
Lack of qualified help. They pay you well, but they expect you to work 80 hours a week. They grind you. It's just the way the business is, right? And so.
So wait, hold on, pause right there. Lack of qualified help, 80 hours a week, and you think, I'm going to go run my own business because I can find people that can do it and I don't have to work 80 hours a week. I feel like that's the exact opposite, right? I mean, every business owner is like 80 to 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
You can't find people right now.
Yeah.
But it's yours.
Yeah.
But it's yours.
I guess it's your mess to hold
and that's what it goes
my
to.
Baby.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what it goes to. It's like, when you're in corporate, you're spending 60 to 80 hours a week, but in the end, you're not walking away with those profits. All that money that you're making that company, you're not getting that. They'll give you a little bonus at the end of the year. They'll give you a little money to keep you going. They'll keep you going, but at the end, and then on top of that, you're not the last person to make the decision. No matter who you are in charge, when you work for somebody, there's always somebody up the ladder that can come in, and no matter how much work you do to line something out and get it ready, they can come in and be like, no, don't want to go that way. And you just have to eat it. Yeah. You know, you have to just be like, oh, okay.
So Corky, was it you just wanting more freedom?
Yes.
Wanting more.
It really comes down to freedom.
Like, okay.
Freedom and the ability to make my own decisions, decide my own path, and I was lucky. I worked for some amazing people. And I was really lucky to gain those experiences, but in the end, it just, like, I don't want to explain to somebody where I'm at on a Monday. I just don't, if it's a Monday, I got 8 kids, if something comes up, I don't have to call someone to say, hey, I'm sorry, little Corky has a cold today, so that was in 2017 now. So I was ready to start my own company. I was already kind of moving that route. But then CW Driver, who is from Southern California, they were recruiting me big time to take over their Northern California department. And they basically made me an offer that I couldn't look away from, they came in. They're a great company. I will tell you right now, CW Driver, one of the best companies to work for. Full coverage of medical, great people, so much support. It was wild. So,
that's where that's where our commercial experience comes from CW Driver as well. They are a great company.
Oh, great company. And so,
they are a great company.
I went and joined them, and then they also had the Hillsdale Mall, right? So I kept building bigger and bigger jobs, but then all of a sudden it was like, wow, North Block, couple $100 million, so then I went with them, and 2 years later, they decided that they didn't want to be in Northern California anymore. And I had built a whole team and brought people in. So is it 2019 at 2019, this point, right? So it's 2019, about
2019 now.
February of 2019. I'd been there just about 2 years. And actually, I'll say this: I was going through a divorce. They supported me, like they did everything to pick me up. And so I will say this Driver, when they made that decision, I talked to the owner and I told him, I understand why you're making this decision. You're a Southern California company trying to build Northern California. You're continually struggling because you don't have the power up here that all these other GCs up here have. And so I understood, but then at the same time, it was kind of like, this is it. You know what I mean? Like, I came here, I built this whole team, I brought all these people in, I sold them on this company, and the company shut the door. So I actually, I got lucky. A family friend, a kid who used to work for me, his dad's a developer. They were building a custom home up in the hills of Saratoga, and they asked me to come build it for them. And I literally wore shorts and flip-flops every day for about a year, and went to work, and I built this beautiful mansion, beautiful house. And it was literally probably the best thing that could happen to me. It let me rebuild myself, and kind of get out of all the, high blood pressure moments I had survived for 15 years. And that was it. I just said, you know what, I'm going to start my own company. I started doing consulting first while I was getting my license. And I got to do some consulting for some great companies, CM, like the core companies, like Urban Catalyst is a opportunity zone company, an opportunity zone developer. And then also I started building smaller projects, and then it just got going, and here in San Jose, I'm pretty well known because of the projects I built. So I have a lot of a very good network. And
tell us about your repertoire, Corky. Go into that now. So now it's 2019. You spend the year building a mansion, and doing that on your own. You do some consulting. Tell us about your repertoire. What is the line of work that you've dedicated the business to?
Well, now we're doing. We started out small, as anything. We're like any company, you got to start somewhere, right? And so we were doing, kind of like tenant improvements and remodels, things like that. It just kind of slowly grew. Now we're doing more ground up projects, podiums, things like that. We're building a 4-story mixed use in Palo Alto. We're getting ready to potentially do a hotel.
All residential, Corky?
No,
All
commercial,
residential?
and residential. We're doing potentially some hospitality in Redwood City. I'm looking at some affordable housing in Oakland and just different projects. Through the baby's waking up.
That's the baby.
Yeah, that's the baby.
That's a good intermission area right here. Can we not just float over the fact that you said you have 8 kids? You have 8 kids.
Yeah.
1 set of twins and a baby that's asleep in a sleeper right next to you.
She just woke up, so she's not asleep no more.
That's a lot of responsibility.
Probably because
and a business that's kind of still in its infancy.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because you started kind of in 2019. You get hit with the pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been good for construction, but like that's a lot on your plate. Oh, you have a little bit of a Thanksgiving platter in front of you.
I want to go back to when you started a little bit. Obviously, I mean, being an employee of something like CW Driver, sure, people know who you are, right? You're walking around those projects, and I'm sure that they know who you are. But those are big GCs. Those are big developers. Those are massive.
Those are big
trade
boys.
Contractors that are coming in and working the trades underneath those people, right? Mm-hmm. So starting on your own, I mean, sure, they all know who you are, but they're not looking for some brand new GC to come in and do some work for them, right? So I get you wanted the freedom and all those other things that come with owning your own business, but where do you find the business? How are you, Corky, in Tech City Builder as a brand new company in 2019 finding business when all your connections are, these companies doing $200 million projects?
With 8 mouths to feed.
Yeah, with 8 mouths to feed. Right. That's the big one. It's truthfully, it's pretty tough. You have to, I know people, right? So it's going to these people and looking for the projects that are a little bit smaller. The ones that the bigger companies just don't have the time to deal with, and then a big part of it is, and a lot of ways I've gotten in is through subcontractors, right? Oh, perfect. The wife's showing up.
This is real life.
Oh, this is real life. This is real life. Yeah, she's waking up right now. It's crazy. So a lot of ways I've gotten in is subcontractors who have advised me for the projects, right? So like Palo Alto.
What kind of subcontractors? So can you break that down?
Yeah,
can you
give
us just a little bit more texture?
Like for the Palo Alto project, they had that ownership group had actually started with another GC, and things went sour really early. And so the concrete subcontractor, who's Stark Concrete out of San Jose, they told the owner, they said, hey, we know a guy that could come in here and build this job for you, no problem. And so they interviewed me. They looked at my resume and they said, oh, yeah, you're the guy. And so we just started working towards it. Another project that I'm bidding right now comes from a reference from another subcontractor, Sierra Construction, which is a wood framing company. AJ Oxley is the owner there. And I worked with them all the way back from my Barry Swenson days. They helped me build the market. And so he went to them and said, hey, I know a guy, this guy right here, Corky Silva, he's built everything. He's got a small company. He could probably give you good pricing. And then that's also where I'm very competitive, right? I have low overhead, right? I'm a small company. I'm not looking to be CW Driver, to be honest. I'm not looking to be, Swenson. I'm not looking to be these companies I work for. I don't want 200 employees. I don't want that. I just don't. It's
Corky. I think there's so much power in that, in knowing what you don't want, and almost using that as a catalyst to understand what you do want, you do want for your business.
Well, it creates leverage in what you're able to do too. Yeah.
Yeah.
What as you're developing this and establishing yourself, what do you want? Because I think this is really important. This was important for me to answer, and it took me a long time to figure that out at the infancy stage of my business. Is what kind of GC? Who do I serve? What size do I want this to be? And along the lines with you, Corky, I didn't want to be a Swinnerton or a CW driver. Yeah. I didn't want that for myself. But what is it that how are you using that to define what you will build?
Well, right off the bat, I mean, one of the things that is key to me is integrity and truthfulness and trust. And so, I'm trying to build a company based around those values, right? And so being very honest with the client and, just being a very open book, open-minded builder. And for me, what I see is I would love to have about 3 to 4, solid, large-scale projects going at any given time. Something that's large enough to provide a very successful company, but not so large that you have to depend on people that realistically should not be doing what they're doing. And I say this because I've been at companies before that we've struggled.
It sounds like you have experience in
that. We've struggled with staffing companies or staffing the projects. And what they'll do is they'll just be like, oh, well, we can't find a superintendent, so we'll take a safety manager. We'll make him your super for a couple of months. Or we'll take this administrator. She's really good. We'll make her your PE. And it's like, okay, that's a Band-Aid, but how am I supposed to be successful and efficient and effective if you're giving me people who have never done what we're trying to do? And I'm not going to name companies or anything, but one of the high rises I had to build when I started the company or when I started the job, they had a good superintendent. He had come from large company from before. He was ready. Well, he literally quit 2 weeks after I got there. Right. So I got there. He's like, good, they got you. I'm leaving. I'm like, wait, well, what do you mean? And it was it's a type 1 project. It's a large high rise, it's a high rise. I mean, it's a high rise, and they never once gave me anybody who had type 1 experience. So me as the executive, I'm not the super, I'm not the PM. I'm supposed to be managing these people, but I'm literally having to train them and walk them through it and do it for them. And then it just starts to get to a point where you're like, what is this? We're building jobs with people that have never been on a job like this, and that's something I never want to be in because that same company, I mean, they had multiple projects where they went through 20 to 30 people on a job. Like it just was like a turnstile of employees. And how do you ever create a positive reputation and have the respect of your industry if you're consistently just rotating through people on a project that maybe needs 4 or 5 people?
So how did you change that? How is Tech City Builder different?
So I have actually taken the time to I've gone very slow right off the bat. I've been offered multiple projects. If I cannot staff that project, if I cannot be successful in that project, I will pass on it. I will it's not worth it. I'm not going to take it on. I'm sorry. I tell them the truth. Hey, I just don't have the manpower to staff this. And you don't want me just to put anybody on the job, right?
Corky, are you 100% sub?
Yes.
Do you sub out 100%?
100%. Okay. We do not perform anything. No, we do not self-perform at all.
Okay.
And so, and then at the same time, with people, you have to have patience. I mean, this industry, especially up here in the Bay Area, it's crazy. I mean, people are jumping ship all the time, no matter what you're paying them. I'll never forget, one of the first employees I hired was this kid out of San Jose State, and he asked for a raise like 4 times in the first 2 months. And I'm like, what are you talking? Like, you literally have come out of college. I'm paying you a solid wage, right? Like for an entry level, and all you tell me is you think you're worth more. Like I'm worth more. Well, I'm doing this now, so I'm worth more. I'm doing it. No, you're not doing that. You're helping in these areas, right? You have to learn. You've never built anything. You've never built a schedule. You've never run a schedule. You've never built, like you've never done any of this, And I think the third or fourth time he called me, I'll never forget. He called me. He was like, we got to talk and blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, well, go ahead. And he started telling me, I said, I'm done with this. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, turn your stuff in. I'm done. And he was floored. He was like, well, I said, I'm not going to spend my time with somebody who's going to just continually tell me how much more they're worth. But what are you accomplishing every day for me? I'm investing in you, right? I'm putting my money in you. And if it's not working, it's not working, And so, we had to move on and then continue to find people that just take the time to find people that, they want to be here. They want to learn. They understand the process. They're patient.
What would you say, Corky, what would you say is one of the biggest lessons you've learned that you weren't ready for, you weren't anticipating? Because at this point, you're 3 years into the business, right?
Yeah.
You're 3 years into the business. What's one of the big things that you've had to learn that you weren't ready for?
Well, that's a good question. One of the big lessons, cash flow. Cash flow is cash flow is king. It's and then and I say that because I think because when you're starting a company, you don't realize how much money it's going to take to get that company going, right?
Yeah.
There's all these little things. I mean, just all these little things that you need. And you don't calculate that in your head when you're really contemplating it. And so I think
Corky, you're talking about something that, Mike, I don't think we've talked about a lot, and that's financing, and that's finance, right? Like this is a really big topic that, interestingly enough, we've done 20 of these together, and no one's talked about finance. We talk about margins and we talk about numbers and we talk about being profitable because, of course, that bleeds into how you finance the next. But in the infancy stage, Corky, did you just self-finance? Did you take out a bunch of credit cards?
Yeah.
Did you go get some capital?
So I actually self-finance. Well, first off, I started out by myself, right? And so I got some projects that started to, generate revenue and bring in funds, and also allowed me to pay for salaries, right? And so that helped me pick up the first one or two people and cover them in the project. But then, as the company grew and as we needed, furniture and office space and, everything, it just started to we needed to actually increase our cash flow. And so I did do some financing, some capital investments that we've, paid off, and then now have actually, restarted again because it's best to keep that cash flow in our pockets, right? Things happen.
Yeah.
Right. At times you need to.
Worst time to need money is when you need it.
Exactly. And so, and then at the same time, I self-financed a good chunk of it. I bought a house in San Jose when I first got out of college, back in 2005. And so, at some point, I refinanced it. I took some of those funds, I injected them into the company, and made sure that we could, get more equipment, things like that, laptops, monitors, desks, an office, things like that we could handle and get covered. And so it's been tough though. I will say it's been tough. I mean, I spend a lot of time, working for free. I say that, my wife gets a little frustrated with me about that, but I have to explain to her that that's kind of the part of the business. When you're estimating
Corky,
all these jobs, you work for free.
That's the truth for every small business.
Yeah.
number one. And I think that's particularly true for people in the construction industry. There's endless amounts of hours that you can't bill for at the very beginning stage of your of your business. It's really hard to be able to bill for the time that you're spending creating the estimate.
Exactly.
Bill for the time you're creating the construction schedule.
Oh,
those are free hours that you're giving the project, because you're also having to get a foot in. You need a foot in.
Yeah.
You have to have an edge. And if your reputation isn't your edge yet, it is going to be the additional value that you bring at the front end.
Yep.
And so that's totally a reality of our business.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's a harsh reality. And, you know, when you're with a corporate company, you don't realize that, you know, you're getting paid a salary.
You don't realize that.
You know, and, you know, you don't think about those things, you know, and then until you're with your own company. And then, you know, it was hard. Early on, we actually got an opportunity to bid some work for Bloom Energy, which does the hydrogen energy sources. And they had a little tower over here in San Jose, and they wanted me on the job. And I did this great bid for them. And I mean, I spent hours on it, you know. And in the end, when we went back, we just didn't qualify. Through their world, not anything else, but they have a very strict financial qualification process. And their corporate only qualified us for like 50% of the job. And they basically were like, you know, sorry. And it was like, they were like, you are our number one. You have the best number, you have the best price, you have the best schedule, but you just don't qualify. And it was like, that was the biggest kick in the stomach, because it was like, it would have been our first big job, you know, and with a company that is doing these all over the place, like, this is exactly what we want, you know, like repeat business and a good client. And it was such a kick in the stomach. And, you know, we still talk. They're looking at other jobs for us, but, you know, we kind of started moving down the road. They moved down the road, and it happens, you know, but
yeah,
those are kind of lessons you learn as a business owner, you know, like kind of like Mike, what you had said, right? Like I went into the business because I don't want people above me to make decisions, but also I want my decisions to be on my shoulders, and I want it all to be on my shoulders. Like, if I make a mistake, if I mess up, it's on me. It's not anybody else. Nobody else messed it up for me, and I got to go swallow my pride and you know, go fix something that somebody else did. No, I did it. And like, that was a perfect example of like just sitting there crying, you know, like, wow. Like, we were this close and we just didn't qualify, you know, like, and it just hurts, you know. You're like, I was so ready to, you know, start ramping up, get some more staff, bring in somebody, you know, do these great. And it was a great project too. I mean, it was just all equipment, you know, it's like a tower with just equipment in it. So like, no finishes, no nothing, like just get in with good subs and bang it out, you know. And it's like, you know, and you know, the company that we lost to was a huge company out of Southern California, right? And so the company that went on to do it, you know, and it's like, that's who we're competing with. So we have to understand that, like, it's going to happen, right? But I guess I should be happy that I'm at least in that ring, right? Like, I'm in that ring.
Conversation. You're at the table.
Yeah, I'm at that table. I'm playing in that game, you know, and that's what I keep telling our team, and that's what I tell myself. It's what I tell my family. Like, you know, we're gonna get there. At some point, we're going to get to a point where, you know, this company will run itself, you know, quote unquote. The people will be able to run itself. We're at a point right now where it's all on my back. You know, I got to make it happen. The staff that I have, they're building the jobs, right? It's up to me to make sure that the estimating happens, to make sure that, you know, all of the business side is moving. And, you know, that's to go back to your question. You know, that's another big lesson learned. You know, I always just tell my first company I worked for was Barry Swenson, builder out of San Jose, huge developer, great man, one of the best human beings I've ever met in my life. I loved working for him. I was sad to leave, but I knew I was going to start my own company, and he was a third generation developer. Everything was in house. It was just a different business model. I wanted to see something else. You know, but my senior vice president, he used to spend every day at his computer, and he would literally be like this, and he would eat peanuts, and he would just look at his computer all day long. And I would be building jobs, and I would always come in and be like, what the hell is he doing? You know, like, what are you doing? And now that I'm a business owner, and now that I see it, now I'm at my desk, like thinking and just trying to figure out. And I call his name's Steve Andrews. He's a senior vice president officer for Barry Swinson. I called him to tell him, like, I get it now. Like, I understand. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much thought and planning and forethought, and you're just like, when you're a business owner, your mind is constantly rolling, like, okay, I got to make sure this gets done. I got to make sure we get here. I got to make sure that I show up for this. I go to this networking event. There's so much going on that has nothing to do with the actual projects that are being built. Right. You know what I mean? It's all in bringing the business to a place that you want it to be. And that's my
Corky,
key.
It's a lot. It's really, you're in the mud right now, like all the way up to your neck, walking through it. Like, we're walking through molasses here. You're in that real tough stage. Why would you decide? Tell me what the decision was in going at it on your own versus taking on a partner.
I actually, for a long time, was trying to start with a partner. And I have my college roommate is also in construction management. He's a great builder. I've got very close friends from the years that, I thought of, and other people, partners. I've got a really good friend out of Colorado who is a very successful entrepreneur. And, I thought maybe I can have him be a capital event. But when I went to do it, I had many people from industry come to me and say, if you can do it on your own, do it on your own. Mm-hmm. Because a partnership is like a marriage without any love or care or anything involved, right? They're like, so
that's really good.
Like
a partnership is like a marriage without any love.
Let's just love or sex or anything. None of that good stuff there, right? And so they said, most likely your partnership is going to get divorced.
Find a different partner.
Yeah, you're gonna get divorced at some point. And a lot of the guys that I talked to, people I talked to, they had gone through that, and they were like, it was a nightmare. And they told me if they could have from day one started on their own, they would have. Now looking back, And so, knowing myself, I'm not your prototypical thinker in this business. I come at things a totally different way. I'm very hard to deal with at times. And I don't mean like anger or anything. I just mean like I'm just kind of a hard personality, and sometimes I rub people wrong. And so to me, it was like, I'm going to bring in a partner and they're going to hate me in 3 years. You know what I mean? Like they're not going to want to be here no more, Yeah. I'm also very much like an alpha. You know what I mean? Like I'm kind of like, I'm a brainstormer who listens to everybody. I'll take everything that everybody says. I'll bring it in my head. But once I figure out the direction I want to go, you're either going with me or you're out of here. It's like, that's the military in me. But once we start marching this way, and I said, this is the way we're going, you're either going with me or you're out of here. I don't care. Like, I'm not going to, I don't want to hear it no more, And that sometimes is hard for people because people want to be heard.
That takes some discipline to understand that that's your personality and bringing a partner in may be easier financially and from a burden and all those kind of things, kind of ease some of that stuff. But that takes some discipline, knowing that that's your personality and knowing that that's not going to end well. Or there's a possibility it could not end well.
Well, it just comes from
choose to kind of just do it on your own.
Years of experience, years of experience, dealing with people.
But I mean, that's like I said, that's discipline. I mean, which is it's tough to do. Like when you see that you can bring somebody else in and mitigate half of the risk financially, mitigate half of the burden and stress mentally. Like there's some genius in kind of recognizing that in yourself and knowing that that's not going to be smart in the end.
Well,
and I think that's really important to point out and to talk about in the way that you're talking about, because there might be some, again, talking about podcast being a resource is somebody who's at the infancy stage of their business or who is considering going out on their own could be taking your experience for a very high value. Thinking about, do I do this on my own? Do I take on a partner? And like, look, you're speaking very frankly about the burden of the infancy stage of having your own business in construction. It is freaking brutal.
Oh, it's brutal.
It is brutal. And you're doing all the things. You wear all the hats. And even when you take on, you know, employees and you take on that support, you're still accountable and responsible for that. Yeah. Right.
Oh yeah.
Like it's tough.
Oh, it's
really tough.
It's amazingly tough. And, you know, I think, I think the hard part, you know, maybe what worked for me was I've never been in a rush to grow the company. And so I was lucky when I did my master's. I actually did my thesis on the growth of companies and where they struggle, right? Or construction companies and how they fail over time, right? And a lot of that came down to, you know, they grew too fast. They don't have enough people to do what they're trying to do. And they end up ruining their reputation. And in this business, reputation is everything. I mean, once your reputation is gone, all the big boys, they're not going to talk to you no more. They're like, no, he failed top.
Well, that's an interesting take, you know? and probably puts you in a pretty advantageous situation going through that. I mean, we struggle on this, not on necessarily on this show, but in this industry, you know, schooling versus not schooling, and you know, not going to that route from a school standpoint and just getting into the trades and learning on the job and so. But it sounds like yours specifically, and probably because you chose that as your thesis. But what was that research process like? And I mean, where did you go to get that information, and why was that, you know, such a why is that something you chose? Because I have to imagine doing all that research and writing what you did put you in a pretty advantageous position for starting your own business, knowing why others fail.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike, I think that's a really good question. Like, you're not in a rush to grow. There's, again, so much power in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and so, you know, honestly, at that point, I already knew I was going to run a company. I knew I was going to start my own company. When I was doing my master's, I was actually at my second company, which was Johnstone Moyer. I had joined them because I wanted to see just a clean, pure general contractor business model. You know, when I was with Barry was the construction. He was the GC, he was the developer, he was the architect, he was everything, you know, and that didn't work. And then he owned everything. So it was like, nobody does anything like that, right? Nobody, it's just not that way. Right. But when I went to JMI, you know, they were just purely a GC. They worked directly for developers. And so I got to see that world of just a pure GC. And then I knew in the back of my mind, hey, at some point, I'm going to own my own company, right? And so I wanted to know, like, why do these companies fail? And luckily enough, I had such a good network that, you know, I got to interview, well, I was at Johnstone Moyer. Well, Bill Johnstone, who is the Johnstone Moyer, he actually built Bovis, right? So he started with a company by the name of Laird McGovern out of New York that just built like when I would be like, what'd you build? He goes, we built Manhattan. I'm like, what do you mean built Manhattan? He's like, we built all the high rises in Manhattan. You know?
How you like them apples?
Yeah, like no, and no, you want to hear apples? The guy actually built the 92 Atlanta Olympics? He was the guy in charge of building like 30 facilities. He stood up there with the IOC chairman, him and his wife, and took a picture at the ceremony in Atlanta, you know? Like, this guy he is genius, you know? And so I was mentoring underneath him. So I got to interview him, talk to him about what he understood. Same thing with John Moyer, who's his partner. You know, Barry Swenson, who owns Swenson in San Jose, multiple people from their company, you know, multiple people from subcontractor companies that have seen problems, developers. I literally went out and just researched with every single person I could, and I go interview them and talk to them about their experience in life and what they saw and the failures that they saw. And then I compiled all that information and basically saw what was the key things that always tended to happen. And it was like, oh, well, we tried to grow too fast. We took on this job we should never taken on. You know, we couldn't staff the job. So we we plugged people in that should never have been there, and then they made it worse.
That is so tricky in our industry.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like the project is too good to say no, and then you do, and you get in more trouble for it. Growing before you actually should. I think that's that's such an easy trap in construction.
Well, it's
and I think it's important to put out. I don't think everybody starting a business, and obviously we're talking about construction, so I'm going to point to construction specifically, needs to have a master's and write a thesis and do that much research. Mm-hmm. But it points to the fact that there is some advantage. There are some advantages in at least doing a little bit of research and talking to a few people and understanding the failures, not necessarily the successes, right? Because I think it's easy to have friends and acquaintances and people in your network that have started their own business to hear about all their successes. And it's kind of like that social media effect, right? You see all the good. Nobody ever posts the bad stuff, right? And so it's easy to kind of take all that good and not ask the hard questions and not ask, well, how did you fail? What were your struggles? You know what I mean? Yeah. But so I think it's important to point out at least that obviously you went the extreme route, right? And wrote an entire thesis on failure and how the ways that you can fail in business. But at least ask some questions, right? And understand, where you may be, to be able to avoid some of those, those possible downfalls for sure.
No, that's the big key, I think.
I mean, I learned that through really hard lessons, what you're talking about, Corky. You went in from a theoretical, right, and a theological perspective, but that's one of our foundational lessons learned, is that you can't take on too much too soon. I've never enjoyed the business more than when we have too much going on, or we're growing too fast. It doesn't work well in a service industry like ours. It doesn't work well. Sure, if you're TikTok and you have 5 million other viewers being like, hey, let's dance, cool. But it's a completely different scale when you're building.
Yeah,
it is. And you have to deliver. I mean, that's the big key. It's you have,
from a reputation standpoint, you have to deliver. Yeah.
You have to deliver, or you're going to pay. I mean, every job's got liquidated damages. The lawyers only win in those worlds. So, it's it's like you got to deliver, and that's the big key. I think, I think that's what separates people from, being a GC of what I call smaller projects and then getting into that next level, right? Get into those 10 million, 20 million, up to 40, 60, 70 $million projects. And that's where
you spend that kind of money. You want to know that there's very little margin for error or very little opportunity for failure. Those are the projects where you only hire the people that don't fail or that fail, 0.01% of the time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Corky, tell us about your dream. Tell us what the you're 3 years in. What is your 5-year goal? 5-year reach?
5 year.
What are you looking for? What do you love?
Honestly, I'm my dream right now, 5 years to basically build or be building a couple projects, but be able to select the jobs that I'm building. That is my decision. That I'm not begging people for work. That I'm not, that people are calling me and saying, Corky, we really want you to build this job. Please come build this job. Yeah. And it's my decision to say, yes, I'll work with you. That's really my dream. I mean, and then when you talk about revenue, I mean, I'd like to be at, maybe $40 to $50 million a year revenue by year 5, and be somewhere around, 100 million in revenue by year 10 or earlier. I'll say earlier. I expect that it'll be earlier. I am a very...
So you're likely definitely going to stay in the commercial side of construction with those kinds of numbers, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Large projects. I mean, and then the dream, the overall dream, I mean, number one dream for me is, I want to get back to building high rises. I have been lucky to build a handful of them in my career. I love them. They are by far the greatest building to build. There's nothing, I always say this to people, there's nothing like going out to your job site in the morning with a cup of coffee, taking the man lift up to the roof, watching the sun come up, everybody's working, you're sipping your coffee and just thinking to yourself, I'm king of the world. I mean, I'm king of the world, you know, and this is my world, you know, and all the years that I built high rises, I was always so happy. I mean, I had knee injuries, leg injuries. It didn't matter. I strapped my boots on. I went to work. I didn't care. I loved it. And that's what I want to build. I want to build something where people have the same fire as I do to get out every morning and build and do something great. And, you know, there's nothing like driving in downtown San Jose with my sons and my kids, and they turn and say, my dad built that. That's my dad built that. My dad built that.
Yep.
Hey, this is where my dad did. He built this. And then, you know, I've got a lot of kids like we talked about. You know, a couple of them,
all 8 of them.
Couple of them are, you know, they're in high school. They'll be in college here soon. So, you know, the biggest dream is that by year 10, they're taking over and the wife and I are traveling and making that much money that we can do that, you know, and that's our reward, right? That's our reward for how hard we're working right now. Because honestly, I don't know many people that are working harder than my wife and I right now, you know, with the 8 kids and then building a business. You know, she's here every day with me. She supports us every day. She does everything she can every day. She's over here keeping the baby quiet right now, you know, and laughing at me. You know, but that's the big key. You know, I want to build an empire for my kids, for my family, and then also for the people that want to be a part of it, right? It's not just my kids and my family. Like I tell the people that come into this company, you're coming in as like a partner or like an officer in the company. This is your baby too, right? And I pay them that way. I make sure that they get taken care of. I make sure that if they earn it, they get it. You know what I mean? Like I don't mess around with money. I'm not greedy. I don't care. I want people to be the people that come here and work hard and they have that fire. I'm all about it. You know what I mean? I will take care of them like awesome, nothing, man. You know? And so,
well, I hope we one day find you at the top of that high rise and get to see you staring at it like the Lion King moment.
Yeah.
Right? Just, everything that the light touches is yours, right?
Just don't have anybody kick.
I love the tone that you bring about like that infancy stage. I don't feel like we've heard that before. Your narrative and your transparency around what business in construction looks like in its infancy stage. And I think that's for whoever is listening, who's at that stage, they should take what you're saying very literally. It's definitely resourceful.
Yeah. Let's get into rapid fire.
So we're going to come to the part of our podcast, Corky, that's the only scripted part of, if you've heard our podcast before. There's 4 questions.
And you got this deep in. A lot of people listen, but maybe they don't get this deep in, but hopefully.
So to the point that I make of wanting our podcast to be a resource for others listening, I ask the same 4 questions to any guest that joins us on the podcast. And again, it's for the intent of being a resource. What's the first question? What's the number one resource that you cannot do your business without? And again, I just want to underscore that I really appreciate the narrative of infancy that you're bringing to this podcast episode. I really appreciate it. What's the one resource 3 years in that your business can't do without?
Good people.
It's good people. People. However you find, make it a resource. Like go to freaking ZipRecruiter. What is the resource that you're using to get good people?
Actually,
or develop them,
or develop them. Well, it's a get good people. San Jose State. I bring a lot of people. Colleges. Yeah, I go to colleges. You know, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. You know, that metaphor, and I have a certain way I like to run business. You know, and so what I'll say is, and I say this, the number one resource in this business is people. I tell people all the time, it's a people business. It is a communication business. You have to be able to connect with people. And so one for me is I do all my recruiting from San Jose State and other colleges too. So, but mainly San Jose State because I know where they're coming from. right? I know what
and they
got.
have a construction. Do they still have that construction management program?
Oh
there?
Yeah. It's
totally. That makes a lot.
So, are you connected with that program in a way that they're pushing people to you, or referring people to you, or at least mentioning you throughout their program, or do you have to go in and actively or proactively recruit through job fairs and other things?
I have not done the job fair yet. For some reason I keep missing it. But I'm tied to that program. So they've asked me to be a professor a couple times. I just don't have the time yet, right? But a lot of times the professors will tell me, they'll call me and say, hey, this guy is a good kid, give him a chance, or you know what I mean? Or this girl, is a good girl. She works hard, give her a chance, and so they'll refer me to students. That's really been the key. But then also I volunteer my time, like to AGC. I went and did an event for them and spoke to all the students and met all the students, and that's really a good way, because when you go to those events and you speak, the students that are interested in you, they come right to you. They want to talk to you. They want to get your card. They want to talk to you later. A lot of times I'm not recruiting them.
They're coming to you.
They're coming to me. And it happens. Every time I do a speech or something, there's at least 2 or 3 students that come to me and say, "Can I be an intern? Can I join your group?"
It's really good.
So I think that's really my main resource.
And that's not a resource that we've heard before, right, Mike?
No, that's
going
good.
to universities.
Good.
That's really good. Second question, Corky, what's the best advice someone has given you?
It's not personal, it's business. I was on
short and sweet. That was easy.
Short and sweet. Well, okay, so 2 things. Yep. And there's 2 things that I kind of live by. It's not personal, it's business. I was on my first high rise I was on, the project manager I was with was about to have twins. He was a fire breathing dragon every day. Every single person who worked for him before me had quit. And they had another PM there helping him. And I think I went in one day and I told him something, and the PM, he blew me apart. Like, he just blew me apart. And the other PM took me outside, and that was what he told me. He said, remember, it's not personal, it's business, right? He's stressed out because of the business. He likes you as a person, but he's stressed out because of the business, right? And so that was what what I learned in construction the first day. When I went to the College of San Mateo Welding Technology, the main professor there, his name's Lou DeFreitas. He's been retired. I think he passed away. He was pretty old. He used to always say, if you're not early, you're late. Every single time. Class started at 6 a.m. He closed the door at 6 a.m. He told you, class starts at 6 a.m., you're here at 5:50. And so every day he would tell us, if you're not early, you're late. And that translates so well to construction, it's unbelievable. And so I live by those 2 things all the time. They're literally, they're on my walls.
It's not personal, it's business.
It's not personal, it's business.
You're not early.
And if you're not early, you're late.
I needed that reminder today. Third question, is there a book or podcast that you love?
Not really. I haven't had too much time. I mean, your guys' podcast, I've watched it and I love it. Actually, when I had to reschedule, I was like super sad. And I think Mike will remember that. I was super sad. I was looking so forward to being on your podcast. I still am. I love it. If you ever want me to come back, I'm in. But no, I mean, I think I'm not a huge podcast person. I just haven't, I don't know if I just haven't had the time,
in between your 8 kids and your business.
I know. Why wouldn't you have any time? It doesn't make any sense.
8 kids in the business is pretty crazy.
Be better.
But I love your guys' podcast. I love what you're doing. I love that you're bringing people in and you're kind of opening up the knowledge base of this industry in a way that's so free flowing, kind of like we're doing today. I think what you're doing, you don't realize how much you're helping other people right now. I really don't think you understand that. And so I think that what you guys are doing is great. And so you're my favorite podcast.
Perfect. 3 in a row.
I'm gonna make a little heart with my hands.
After we went so many episodes of this rapid fire without anyone mentioning us, it's been 3 in a row.
Whoop,
Apparently
there
we're
it
doing
is.
something right.
Whoop,
Let's get in there.
we are doing something right. Last
Penetrating the
question,
market.
Corky. Dude, you are a full-plated entrepreneur, self-employed, 8 kids, newly married. I don't know if this is even an appropriate question to ask, but is there anything that you do for yourself? Is there any habit that you have for yourself that gives you life? Just yours.
What do I do for myself that gives me life? It's really this business. I mean, it's this business and it's my kids, right? So, and then it's my wife. I mean, my family's everything, and all I ever want to do was be a builder. So, those two things are really everything that I am about. Here, come here. Come here. This is what gives me life. Right here.
There you go.
Hi,
Love that.
This is Isabella.
Hi,
this is my youngest. And so,
Hi, Isabella.
I mean, my wife and I, we travel at times. We travel at times. I love to travel, right? Like anybody, I love to travel. I love to see new things. But, my entire life, I've dreamt of having a large family and really just doing better for my kids than it was done for me. And just being a great father, being a great husband to my wife, she's the most amazing woman on the face of the planet. And then being a builder, getting to build every day. Like, this is what I love to do, so
Awesome.
I think that's a big key for people. And I think that I tell my staff all the time, and they get it, and they actually say it back to me. I said, I can't tell you how many days I get to the elevator or something I'm running, and I look at my watch, and I'm like, it's 2:00. I wish I had 3 hours back, and I love what I do so much that like the time just flies by, and I wish I had more time to do my work, and it's because I love what I do, and I love being a builder. And I think that for people, when they find what they love to do, it's not a job anymore. It's you're doing what you were meant to do, and it's easy, and it's fun, and it's rewarding.
Well, Corky, you did it. You did it.
Yeah.
You did it. And I'm going to mess up the saying, but it's like, remember when you prayed for everything that you have right now? Like, you got, right. I mean, it's messy. It's tough. Kids are sick for endless amounts of times, for months at a time. You go through highs and lows of the business, but this is life. You're doing it. It's not all peaches and cream.
Oh, no.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
That's really, really good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Corky, it's been amazing, man. We appreciate the time. It's been fun. I think we are excited to follow your journey, especially being so new, like Maricela said. It was fun hearing that perspective, being so fresh, right? Everybody was new at some point, but you're kind of in it right now, so it's fun to see that, and sounds like you're on your way to success. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your honesty and your transparency. I know that it's going to serve.
Thank you both. I truly appreciate this time. It was a lot of fun. I truly enjoyed myself.
Yeah, cool. That was awesome, man. Thank you so much. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you down the road somewhere.
Thank you.
Thanks, Corky.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you had a good time, be sure to hit that subscribe button to get all the latest episodes. And if you had a really good time, leave a review to let us know what you thought. Until then, go gather some crazy stories on your job sites, and we'll see you next time on So, You Want to Be a Contractor.